Versatile Mage. Chapter 464. Panic in the River. The 3-meter-tall white sand demons were lined up in 4 or 5 rows, completely surrounding the hunters that had trespassed into the drifting sand river, leaving them no way to escape. Rows of white sand sabers dropped onto the targets. These sabers were not sharp like normal weapons, but extremely blunt, more like clubs. The slashes were actually smashing the hunters instead. As a result, it turned into a gory scene, with flesh and blood flying everywhere. The moonlight was a mix of blue and white, while the drifting sand river was white like rice, making the pools of blood on the ground even more obvious and terrifying. Mo Fan's eyes popped open. Even though he did not have the urge to save the hunters, they had died an extremely quick death. The defense from their spells was not weak, yet they still stood no chance against the weapons of the white sand demons. Their defense was crushed instantly, as their cries of agony echoed in the wide desert. "My God!" Zhao Manyan's soft exclamation came from behind Mo Fan. Mo Fan turned around and saw everyone had woken up and followed him from their tents. Xingxia and Chen Yi covered their mouths with their hands, while Ling stared with her eyes wide. It was obvious that they had witnessed everything. The drifting sand river was a lot more terrifying than they had imagined. The hunters were like commoners jumping into a river filled with violent sharks and were torn to pieces within seconds. "Why don't we treat this as a holiday trip to Dunhuang? Let's go back to where we belong," murmured Zhao Manyan, feeling his scalp turning numb and his limbs going soft. Zhao Manyan had learned from the secret tipping scrolls that the drifting sand river was considered one of the most dangerous forbidden areas in the Dunhuang region. Many hunters had lost their lives here, but when Zhao Manyan witnessed it with his own eyes, he could clearly feel his soul trembling in fear. If it weren't for the hunters that were chased into the drifting sand river by the sand hull tigers, their party would have ended up as the ones enjoying a quick trip to the netherworld. Don't we still have Xingxia with us? Maybe it won't be that bad." Even the fearless Zhang Xiaohou began to stammer. Chen Yi and Xingxia remained silent for quite a long time, needing some time to recover after witnessing such a gory scene. Sometime later, Chen Yi looked at Xingxia with wide eyes and said, "Can your psychic element really calm the demon beasts down? If something goes wrong, won't we end up like them?" Xingxia nodded seriously after a brief thought and said softly, "The white sand demons in that area are irascible because it's stained with blood, so it's not the best idea to go through that area. However, as long as we are walking through areas that do not have the smell of blood, I can guarantee that they won't attack us. Even if you say so, I'm still uncomfortable. We'll all be dead if something goes wrong," said Zhao Manyan coldly. Ling cast a disdainful gaze at the two cowards and spoke calmly. "That bunch of idiots dug their own graves when they startled so many sand hull tigers at the same time, and on top of that, they were stupid enough to trespass into the drifting sand river. They might have a chance at surviving if they decided to fight against the sand hull tigers, but once they stepped into the drifting sand river and caused such a scene, it was no different than jumping into hell themselves. All we need to do is be extremely cautious, and with Sister Xingxia's psychic element, we will only be crossing a dried river." Meanwhile, Xingxia had recovered from her fear. She said confidently, "It won't be a problem if we follow the original plan. However, you all must remember, don't cast any spells without my permission in the drifting sand river. Once they sense the ripple of a destructive spell, they will instinctively attack us. When that happens, we'll lose control of the situation." Zhao Manyan and Chen Yi nodded. They clearly knew that it was unrealistic to try fighting the demon beasts in the drifting sand river, but with a psychic, everything would be fine. Everyone went back to the tents with a perturbed mind, and none of them managed to get a good night's sleep. After all, the drifting sand river was only less than 20 meters from them. Who knew if the terrifying white sand demons would attack those on the shore in the morning? Everyone bore their uneasiness until morning, as the red sun rising in the east shone its rays down on the drifting sand river. The blood of the group of hunters had dried up in the wind, but the stains were as clear as before under the crimson light, reminding them that the enormous white sand river was not as calm as it appeared, but rather a place with a slim chance of survival. Why don't someone among us go and try it out? It's better than the whole squad getting wiped out, Zhao Mannion asked weakly. I think that's a great idea, as everyone would be convinced that the plan works. The question is, who's going to do it? Replied Mo Fan, with a hint of mischievousness. Zhang Xiaohou clearly knew it was not the best time to volunteer himself. He gave Zhao Mannion the chance to do the honor. Zhao Mannion felt like giving himself a slap to the face. Was he too bored after filling his stomach? What was he thinking, voicing such a suggestion? He still had a glimpse of hope and said to Zhang Xiaohou smilingly, "You're a brave soldier, with 2 movement spells. You can run away if something goes wrong. I'll let you do it." Zhang Xiaohou waved his hands and said sternly, "Brother Fan has told me that your defense is like a 1,000-year-old turtle. I bet even if the white sand demons appeared, your defense is able to last long enough for us to come and rescue you." Zhao Mannion glanced at Mo Fan pleadingly. Mo Fan shrugged and said seriously, "I'm the party's DPS. I'm sure that either of you two is a better candidate." Zhao Mannion wore a helpless look and turned around, glancing at Xingxia. "Go for it, it will be fine, as long as you remember that you must not cast any spell until I tell you otherwise, as it will only place you in grave danger," Xingxia said gently. Zhao Mannion braced himself and walked toward the drifting sand river. Anxiety was not the only thing he was feeling at that instant. He tiptoed his way forward, each step on the sand making his heart beat vigorously. He could hear the howling of the wind coming in his direction. In his eyes, it did not feel like a dried river, but a terrifying path to the netherworld. He had only taken a few steps when tides of white sand rose from his surroundings. More than 10 white sand demons appeared beside him out of nowhere. They stood imperiously, their bulky figures resembling samurai in white armor. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.